We've all doodled, sketching with short pencil strokes or shapes in the margins of notes or even homework. I'd like to show you how to translate those doodles onto fabric with your sewing machine to create small works of art. The sewing is fast, the end result gratifying. Let's begin with doodling with a zigzag stitch. Queen Anne's lace flowers can easily be sketched with a condensed zigzag stitch and a little sewing savvy. You'll be impressed how using what's commonly known as a bar tack stitch can turn into an artistic design. Doodle stitching, that's what's next on Sewing with Nancy.
Sewing with Nancy, TV's longest-airing sewing and quilting program with Nancy Zieman, is made possible by Baby Lock, a complete line of sewing, quilting, and embroidery machines and sergers. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Madeira, specializing in embroidery, quilting, and special effect threads, because creativity is never black and white. Koala Studios, fine sewing furniture custom built in America. Clover, making a difference in sewing, quilting, crafting, and needle arts for over 90 years. Amazing designs and Class A needles.
Chances are your sewing machine can zigzag, and if they can, you can make either, if it can, you can make either of these designs. We have the Queen Anne's lace as an option, or just some generic big flower, contemporary looking flower. A zigzag stitch, a straight stitch are what you'll need, and we've slipped our little artwork designs over the plexiglass frame that you can use for a photo. So to do the stitching, first we do some sketching, some pre-doodle on paper and pencil. In my little art book, and art I put in parentheses, I've doodled some flowers that I'm going to stitch or show you how to stitch today. And you can translate that right onto your fabric using a water-soluble pen, a marking pen, a pen that disappears with the heat of the iron, whatever you'd like you can use. To make stitching a little bit easier, use a craft interfacing that's cut 6 by 8 and some fabric that's been fused to it, and then just kind of sketch where you're going to be stitching. Now you might have some fabric left over, especially also the craft interfacing, and put a little of that fabric on the craft interfacing and do some testing. And this is what I use to test out my designs, to see which width of the stem I should use, which length, etc. And I chose a 2.5 width of the stem and a 0.5 length. And before we start stitching, I might want to talk about thread. You can use embroidery thread, rayon, or you can use cotton thread if you'd prefer. Use bobbin thread in the bobbin, embroidery needle, and then embroidery thread I've chosen for the top. For the multicolored flowers, I've chosen 3 shades of the same color, and I'm going to also just use the white for the Queen Anne's lace. Now to do the stitching, I've started to stitch the stems, and with the 2.5 width, you can see I have two stems almost done, and I'll just continue to sew to the center of this flower. And then for that Queen Anne's lace, I had some kind of center spokes where the lace attaches to. If we look back to you can see maybe just those little straight stitches that go out. So now I'm going to change my stitch length just to a straight stitch and stitch back, front and back, stop in the center, then pivot. Now on my machine, I'm lifting the presser foot with my knee, the knee lift lever. And if you can do that, if you have that availability, this makes doodling on the machine a lot faster. It's kind of a no hands approach to working with the presser foot. So I'll just kind of, there's really no right or wrong here. So I'm going to back up so I get ready to do the stitching for the blooms. Now this is a standard bar tack stitch. And let's look at my sample where I've done the practice stitching. On this practice, I have 3 different colors of the yellow, and here's 3 different colors of the pink. And the threads just go from one to the other. I never bother cutting them. It kind of connects all together. So I'm going to change my machine and stop with the needle in the upright position, so not in the fabric, so I can do that. I'll turn that off, and then I'll go to a zigzag stitch. And I did some testing, and the further the flower is to you, the closest, the wider the width. So let's go for a width about 3 and a length, again, pretty short, 0.5. And you can test it, do a testing first of all, a pre-test, pre-doodle, but we now need to change thread colors. That wouldn't look too good in green, so I'm going to quickly change the thread and go in this manner. You could also make a greeting card with this technique, maybe a 4x6 instead of this larger size, and stitch it to some paper so you can have quick little projects that you can make with doodling. That's the whole idea. We're not making quilts that are heirloom, we're making projects that, little works of art. So let me see if I can get this threaded without glasses, which I can. And now I'll just start to doodle. Doodle with this zigzag stitch, stopping with the needle up, move it, 1/4 of an inch, slightly turn the fabric, and you can see that you just fill in the blanks, fill in your doodle.